In a barren, hilly region, inside an abandoned building on the outskirts, a group of children's heads are being shaved. One of the boys, as his head is being shaved, is seen with 3 black dots on his ankle, possibly birthmarks. Notary Jean Lebel reads the will of Nawal Marwan to her twin children, Simon and Jean Marwan. Nawal had worked for Jean Lebel, and over the years they'd come to see each other as family. In her will, Nawal leaves strict instructions for her burial. Bury me with no casket, no prayers, naked, face down, away from the world. I want no gravestone, no epitaph for those who don't keep their promises. Following her instructions, Mr. Lebel hands Jean an envelope. Her task is to find their father and deliver it to him. He then gives Simon another envelope. His mission, to find their brother and hand the letter to him. Only when both envelopes have been delivered will the notary give them one final letter. The silence will be broken, a promise kept, and you may place a stone on my grave. Jean is confused and questions Lebel. You knew about our father, and that we have a brother? Why did you let her write that? Lebel replies calmly, I understand your reaction. This is very surprising. Simon interjects, don't pretend you believe this. You knew her, it can't be true. Lebel answers, one doesn't invent such things. Not in a will. Simon gets angry and walks out, while Jean silently examines their mother's passport. Lebel continues, I know it's very unusual, but your mother wasn't crazy. Simon says, I'll talk to Jean Lebel about arranging a normal funeral. We'll take care of her. Then you. Jean, frustrated, tries to leave. Bury her any way you want, she snaps. Do you realize what we just heard? She demands. Simon responds, she's gone, Christ, it's over, peace at last. Niv, the professor under whom Jean works as an assistant professor, tells her, to find your father, you're going to need help. Do you have any family there? Any contacts? It's ridiculous, says Niv. You just learned that 1, your father is alive, and 2, you have a brother. What's ridiculous is to challenge the inevitable. You have to know, or your mind will never be at peace. You need a starting point, Niv tells her. Jean says, my father died during the war in Daresh. My mother was from Der a village in the Fuad region. She studied French at Daresh University. Niv replies, if she studied there, there's hope. Niv asks Jean to visit Said Haidar, an old friend of his who teaches in Daresh. You can trust him, Niv tells her. Jean searches for her mother's photos with something written in the background in Arabic. The day Nawal Marwan stopped speaking and got sick, she was at a swimming pool with her daughter, Jean. While swimming, Jean notices her mom. Nawal looks frozen, as if she is in some kind of shock. Jean asks her mom, are you all right? What are you doing? While Jean calls, Mum, Mum. Her mum is still silent. Nawal was hospitalized. She doesn't respond, even though Simon asks her continuously what happened. The doctor asks, does she have memory loss, incidences of falling, or moments of confusion? To which Jean replies, no. Back in the past, Nawal is caught with her lover, Wahab, by her brother. Wahab, the son of a Muslim refugee, is shot dead on the spot. When they attempt to kill Nawal too, accusing her of staining the family's honor, her grandmother intervenes and stops them. Furious, Nawal's grandmother shouts, you've ruined our family's reputation. Nawal, tearful and trembling, confesses that she is pregnant. Her grandmother, cold but decisive, tells her, there's nothing left for you here. I'll help you after the birth, but you must leave. You'll stay with your uncle Charbel in town. You'll go to school there. You'll learn to read, to think, to escape this misery. When Nawal gives birth, the grandmother marks the baby by piercing a needle 3 times into the child's ankle, leaving 3 small dots, birthmarks. Nawal holds her baby and whispers, I'll find you again one day. I promise. The grandmother hands the child over to a man who leaves with the baby. A few days later, Nawal leaves her grandmother's home just as she had promised. Back to the present, Jeanne, Nawal's daughter, travels to Daresh in search of the truth. She meets a man who says, I received a message from my friend Niv Cohen, but I'm afraid I can't help you. Back then, I was teaching the history of mathematics at Paris 11. Jeanne meets Najat, who has been working at Daresh University for a long time. Najat says, "The woman in the photo looks familiar. Perhaps she worked on the student newspaper." He adds, "But it's striking." Najat tells Jan, "The photograph of your mother was taken in Kafar Riyat. It's the sign for Kafar Riyat, a prison in the south." Back to Nawal's past. Nawal tells the reporter, if the international community doesn't intervene immediately, the Muslim refugees crammed into camps along the border will suffer. "We students oppose the Christian Nationalist Party and the expulsion of refugees in the south." Rafka says, "The nationalists support the Christian right, who openly threaten the refugees. The refugees have the support of most Muslims in the country." The reporter asks, "But you yourself are Christian?" Nawal replies, "We stand for peace. This is not about religion." As tanks pass through the streets, one person says, "They shut down the university." The nationalists closed the university campus. Charbel shouted at Nawal to come back inside the house. Nawal yelled, "Uncle Charbel, they've shut down the campus." Charbel replied, "There will be fighting. I want you to stay with us." Suddenly, Nawal and Rafka heard the sound of gunfire. Charbel informed them that Christian villages in the south had been attacked. Nawal grew anxious about her child's safety, knowing that Christian villages in the south were under attack. She said, "There are 2 orphanages there. I'll come back later on foot." Rafka protested, "You're not going there now. You promised Grandma." Nawal turned to Rafka and said, "You heard your father. If they attack the camps, the country is lost. School is finished." She added softly, "I think of him every day. He's my child. I need to find him." Nawal then told Charbel, "I'm going to Shadia's for water." She left the house, determined to search for her child in a city that appeared deserted under an imposed curfew. At a heavily guarded checkpoint, separated by a bridge and manned by armed personnel from both the north and south, Nawal stated she was heading south. She passed through and continued her journey. Nawal visits her grandmother's village, where her lover Wahab was shot dead. Arriving at an orphanage in her native village, Nawal asked if it had always been a girls' orphanage. She knew she had given birth to a boy who had been placed there. One of the women at the orphanage explained that the boys had been moved to Kafar Kot 3 years ago. She added that Kafar Kot, where the boys' orphanage was relocated, had been attacked the previous day. Nawal begins her journey on foot to Kafar Kot. Upon arriving, she witnesses destruction and burning buildings, with no people in sight. She approaches a man and asks, "I'm looking for the orphanage." "Do you know where it is?" Pointing to a building engulfed in flames, the man replies, "There." Nawal asks, "Where are the children?" The man responds, "Ask someone who was there." The Muslim villagers have fled to the camp in Deresa, fearing reprisals. The children might be with them. Shamsuddin and his men killed all the Christians to avenge the refugees. Perhaps the children are in Deresa. As Nawal walks along the mountainous roads, she spots a bus. To blend in, she covers her face to appear Muslim and boards the bus heading to Deresa. The bus is soon stopped by armed masked men who shoot the driver and fire indiscriminately at the passengers. Nawal, along with a woman and her child, survives the attack. As they cower in fear, they see a man climb onto the bus and pour petrol inside. With no other way to escape, Nawal reveals a cross and shouts, "I'm Christian." As she exits the bus, she claims the other woman's daughter as her own to protect her. However, the armed group sets the bus ablaze and separates the child from Nawal. As the child tries to run back toward the bus, they shoot her down. Consumed by unbearable grief, Nawal crumples to the ground, her heart shattered. Jeanne travels south to her mother's native village. The house she visits is empty, with no one living inside. She meets elderly women in the village and introduces herself, mentioning her mother's name. An argument erupts among the women, who shout that her mother is a disgrace. They declare, "If you are Nawal Marwan's daughter, you are not welcome here." In the past, in Deresa, the city lies abandoned, its buildings collapsed and desolate. Nawal Marwani encounters a Muslim radical group. One member confronts her, saying, "You claim to oppose our enemy, the Christian nationalists, but that doesn't make you our friend." Why should Shamsuddin trust you? Nawal responds, my son's father was a Muslim refugee from Deresa. My son was lost to the war. I have nothing left to lose, only hatred for the nationalists. The man asks, what do you want now? Nawal replies, to teach the enemy what life has taught me. Nawal becomes a French language teacher for the son of a Christian nationalist party leader. She shoots the leader, is caught, and is sent to Kafar Riot prison, where she is confined to a small, dark cell. Jean travels to Kafar Riat. A local guide takes her inside the Kafar Riat prison, showing her the women's section. He explains that the prison held 600 political prisoners and was built at the start of the war. Many of them were jailed for up to 15 years. Jeanne shows the guide a photo of her mother and asks if he knows anyone who worked there during that time. She's directed to a nearby school, where she's told she can find someone named Fahim Hassa, the school janitor now. Fahim is hesitant to speak at first. But when Jean shows him her mother's photo, something changes. That's her, he says, the woman who sings. Number 72. She shot the leader of the right-wing Christian militias. They made her pay a heavy price, 15 years. Everyone called her the woman who sings. She sang all the time. Jeanne, unsure, asks, are you certain it's her? I watched her for 13 years, he replies. They did everything to break her. But she never bent. Even at the end, she stood tall and looked them straight in the eyes. I've never seen anyone like her. They couldn't stand it. So, they sent in Abu Tarek. He pauses, the weight of memory heavy. Abu Tarek was a specialist, a torturer. They brought him to break her before her release. He raped her, again and again, just so she would stop singing. Eventually, she did. In the end, she became pregnant. They waited until she gave birth in prison. Then, they let her go. Before Jean leaves, the janitor adds, the nurse who helped deliver the baby still lives in Daresh. While in prison, Nawal tries to keep herself sane. She begins singing to drown out the sounds of other women being tortured and raped. Even when she is taken to the torture cell, she continues singing. The torture specialist, brought in specifically to break her, rapes her. As he leaves the room, he mockingly says, now sing. Nawal becomes pregnant, and a nurse at Kafar Riat looks after her during the pregnancy. With the nurse's help, Nawal gives birth to twins. Later, Simon travels to the south in search of answers for his sister. He is accompanied by Jean Lebel, the notary. Jean contacts a local notary named Madad in hopes of finding Simon and Jeanne's father and brother. The local notary says, in brief, the matter of the father is complicated. There is no death certificate. Jeanne then tells Simon, the nurse who helped Mom give birth in prison, we can go see her today. But Simon responds, that's enough. Just stop all this. We're going back. Jeanne insists, it's our job to find our brother. The nurse tells them that she helped Nawal deliver the babies and kept them safe. After Nawal's release, the nurse returned the twins to her. She confirms Nawal Marwan had twins. Jean Lebel tells Madad, Nawal Marwan worked for me as my secretary for 18 years. My wife and I were fond of her and her children, but I realize now that I didn't truly know her. Regarding the father, Madad explains, there's no death certificate for Abu Tarek. Many people in this country disappeared. He may have fled abroad, that's what people like him often did. As for the brother, Madad continues, Nawal Marwan was from the village of Der She gave her child to a midwife named Elham, who placed him at the Kfar Kaut orphanage in May 1970. Only one child was placed there that month, registered under the first name Nihad. He's your brother. At Kfar Kaut orphanage, he was recorded as Nihad of May, with the month of arrival used as a temporary surname. No other children arrived at the orphanage during that time. When the war began in 1974, the orphanage was destroyed. Madad suggests, to learn what happened to the children, we must investigate who destroyed Kfar Kaut. He proposes a radical approach to trace their brother, Nihad of May. The warlord who raised the orphanage is still alive. He may know what happened to Nihad and the other children. A warlord is precisely the kind of man with a long memory. Believe me, he will remember. His name is Shamsuddin. Madad adds, we can't find him. He will find us. To do this, you must travel to the Daressa refugee camp. Tell them you are the son of the woman who sings and that you are looking for Nihad of May. After Simon arrives at his hotel, two men approach him and ask him to accompany them, promising he can return within an hour. Simon calls Madad, who reassures him, you can go with them. In the hotel room, Simon was asked, why do you want to find Nihad of May? Simon replied, he is my brother. My mother asked me to find him. Shamsuddin asked Simon, how can you say that Nihad of May is the son of Nawal Marwan? Simon responded, my brother was placed at the Kafar Kut orphanage. We found the records, the dates, everything fits. Shamsuddin said, my friends and I attacked the Christians of Kafar Kut to avenge the aggressions against our brother refugees. I took the children from the Kafar Kut orphanage with me. Nihad was among them. We trained them to fight alongside us. Nihad had a gift. He was special. He quickly became a formidable marksman. But he wanted to find his mother and searched for months. I don't know what he saw or heard, but he became consumed by war. He came back to see me, wanting to be a martyr. He believed his mother would see his photo on every wall in the country. When I refused, he returned to Daresh. He became the most dangerous sniper in the region. But one day, the enemies captured Nihad. They didn't kill him. Instead, they trained him and sent him to the Kfar Rayat prison. He was in the Kfar Rayat prison as a torturer. Simon asked, was he in the prison as a torturer alongside my father, who was also a torturer? Shamsuddin replied, no, he didn't work with Abu Tarek, your father. While back at the hotel, Simon repeatedly says, 1 + 1 makes 2. It can't make 1. He then asks Jean, 1 + 1, can it make 1? Jean understood what happened actually, and what Simon is trying to tell her. On the day Nawal Marwan takes her daughter to the swimming pool, she falls silent, becomes ill, and dies a few days later. While swimming, Nawal notices a person's feet with 3 dots tattooed on the ankle. She looks up at the person's face and recognizes him as the man who raped her repeatedly in prison. The 3 dots suggest he is her son. Staring at him, Nawal falls silent that day. At the hotel, Shamsuddin explains to Simon, when your brother became a torturer, he changed his name to Abu Tarek. Nihad of May is Abu Tarek. He now lives in Canada under a new identity, Nihad Harmani. Simon and Jean approach Nihad Harmani and hand him 2 letters. Nihad opens the envelope labeled to the father. It reads, I recognized you, but you didn't recognize me. I am your number 72. Our children will deliver this letter to you. Through them, I want to tell you that you are still alive. Soon you will fall silent. I know, for all are silent before the truth. Nihad opens the second letter, which reads, I spoke to the son, not the torturer. Whatever happens, I will always love you. I promised you that when you were born, my son. I searched for you all my life and found you. You have a tattoo on your right heel. I saw it and recognized you. Your mother, Nawal Marwan, prisoner number 72.